And we should be going live here any second, folks. Good morning. Oh, I'm going to get feedback here, aren't I? There we go. Good morning and happy Easter. Welcome to Sacred Ground Community Church and Sangha. This is our Sunday morning Easter mindfulness service, and we're glad you could be with us. We'll begin in a moment with the singing bowl, and we're a multi-faith community. We meld the beneficial teachings from Christianity, Buddhism, and earth-centered spirituality, and you will certainly see that here today. I think this will be an Easter service probably unlike anyone that you will find elsewhere. We are also going to do communion today, so if you're watching at home and you want to get some juice or a piece of bread later to join with us in that, you're welcome to. I will begin right now. I'm Parson Michael, forgot to say that, and I will begin with the bell, and I'm going to invite the bell to sound and welcome everybody here too in the house, in the room, and I'm going to invite the bell to sound, and when I invite the bell to sound, we are invited into presence, into being right here, right now, in this moment. And may we enjoy the sound of the bell. I was sharing recently, sometimes people think, meditation, mindfulness is serious business. You're welcome to smile if you wish and just enjoy the sound of the bell. And one of our primary teachers is the late Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. And there's so many lines of his that I love, but one that I really, really enjoy is he says something like this. He says, if you want to know where God lives, if you want to know where the Buddha lives, if you want to know where Jesus lives, I can tell you. I know exactly where they live. I have their address, even the zip code. He says, they live right here in this moment. This moment right here. It's all invite. I invite you one more time to enjoy the sound of the bell. I'm already forgetting. We're going to begin with a song that might be familiar to many of you. Jesus Christ is risen today. And we're going to sing all four verses throughout the service. We'll get to all four verses. And right now we're just going to sing the first verse. And I'll just give you the first couple of lines and then I'll go back just to kind of reorient. I was talking with three different people who were here a couple minutes before the service. Everybody remembered this. Everybody remembered it. We probably all went to different denominations. we all knew this one. So it goes like this. Jesus Christ is risen today. Alleluia. Our triumphant holy day. Alleluia. Who did once upon redeem our loss. Alleluia.
Did you already do the theme? The theme
Oh.
for today?
I wasn't going to do the theme, but I'll just say, I did write down others. Our theme today is going to be fresh perspective, fresh view, and in particular, speaking of the rainbow body here on Easter Sunday.
So much welcome to folks that are here joining us live in Columbus, and welcome to those of you joining us on YouTube. We just want to let folks know that are joining us online that you can comment in the live chat. We'd love to hear from you, and I think we already had, it's a little bit confusing. Actually, can you hand me the phone? I think then I could see. I already had some people comment. Oh, Stacy says, happy Easter blessings, Stacy and Mark and Mom in Pittsburgh, PA. So thanks for joining us. But you can comment throughout the service. We're going to have time for prayers and joys and concerns. We're going to have a time for sharing. So please feel free to let your voice be heard and let us know where you are watching us from. I'm going to start us out today with a prayer, but we'll start out with a little bit of breathing and silence. So I just invite you to notice where you are in your body. If you want to rearrange yourself like I just did, where you feel firmly rooted. I invite you to start noticing your breath, your spine. You want to reorient. Maybe with your shoulders back a little bit, with your chest up. And then, if it feels good to you, with your eyes closed. You might want to put your hands someplace deliberate, either on your lap, on your knees, up or down, but find a place that feels comfortable to you. On this Easter morning, I'm going to have us start out with a breath of joy. We did this last Sunday with movements, and we're not going to do it this Sunday with movements. We're going to just do the breath. And the breath is 3 inhales through our nose, and then a slow exhale through our mouth with kind of like a little bit like you're blowing out of a straw, just a slow exhale for this one. So we're going to be 3 inhales and then a slow exhale. And we're just going to do this 4 times. And you'll see, but it's a breath of joy. So here we go. 3 inhales through your nose. And a slow exhale. When you're ready, you do it again. 3 inhales. Slow exhale. Three inhales. Slow exhale. And last time, inhales. Slow exhale. I invite you to go back to your normal breath, or maybe even a little bit deeper breath than normal, just noticing the rise and fall of your chest, your stomach, your shoulders maybe even. But with that joyful breath, did you feel some life in your lungs? A little bit more of a heartbeat and a pulse that you're feeling? We are alive on this day today. Here in Columbus, it's a beautiful, sunny spring day. And I'm just going to have us sit in a moment of silence, breathing and feeling the gratitude for aliveness and all that that means. great sacred, precious mystery, creator of all life. Each year, we're given the gift of witnessing nature's resurrection as color and light return to the trees and plants. Life once again keeps her promise as the earth warms, and generous light follows us into the evening hours. May we see the promise of resurrection in our own lives as well. Aspects of ourselves that we thought were gone may begin to show buds and the possibility of new life. With mindful eyes, let us experience the hopefulness of resurrection in our earth, in ourselves, in our relationships, in our country, and throughout the broader world community. Resurrection is real. Help us to have the awareness to see the possibilities of resurrection, renewal, regrowth, and regeneration within us and around us, so that we can live each day with the joy of Easter. Peace and amen.
Peace and amen.
Good morning, I'm Shannon. I have the first reading. It's from Thich Nhat Hanh's The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, pages 49, 50, 52, and 54. When we join our palms and bow to another person, we acknowledge the seed of Buddhahood in him or her or they. When we bow to a child this way, we help him or her or they grow up beautifully and with self-confidence. If you plant corn, corn will grow. If you plant wheat, wheat will grow. If you act in a wholesome way, you will be happy. If you act in an unwholesome way, you water the seeds of craving, anger, and violence in yourself. Right view is to recognize which seeds are wholesome and to encourage these seeds to be watered. This is called selective touching. At the base of our views are our perceptions. The Buddha advised us not to be fooled by what we perceive. He told Subhuti, quote, "Where there is perception, there is deception." The Buddha also taught on many occasions that most of our perceptions are erroneous and that most of our suffering comes from wrong perceptions. We have to ask ourselves again and again, and am I sure? Relatively speaking, there are right views and there are wrong views. But if we look more deeply, we see that all views are wrong views. No view can ever be the truth. It is just from one point. That is why it is called a point of view. If we go to another point, we will see things differently and realize that our first view was not entirely right. The quality of our views can always be improved.
namaste to start out with?
Yeah.
So we are now going to have a chance to do our namaste bows to each other, the people that are here. And a namaste bow is when you realize the light in you and the light in the other person, or the sacred in you and the sacred in the other person. So we'll stand up and have a chance just to bow to each person that's here. Anyone that wants to can come here and bow to the folks that are joining us online if you'd like to do that. And the folks joining us online, you can bow yourself. So we'll just do that first.
Yeah, and we invite the idea that those who are watching online, that as they bow in, that's going out to all of us and all the others who are watching too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can have our that one. Bowing to Cookie, our dog. And we did have, Michael says, hello everyone. Sorry I arrived late today. So there's a namaste bow there. We're going to have a chance now to do our joys, our concerns, our prayers on this Easter Sunday. So if you're joining us online, you could add these in the live chat and I will try to read them. And if you're joining us here, you are welcome to state them aloud. And everyone is welcome and will have many joys, concerns, and prayers, many, many more that are just going to stay on our hearts today. So we know that too. So we'll just have a time. I'll ring the bell, have a couple breaths, and then if people want to add some joys, concerns, and prayers, they may. If you'd like, I could turn the camera. So if you'd like to say that online, you just raise your hand and I'll do that. But if you don't raise your hand, then we won't put anybody on camera. I don't know who it is.
I was bowing. Were you bowing?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I received your bow. I sent it back.
There you go, Michael.
Lots of bowing.
Lots of bowing in, That's good
Wants
energy.
to
Yeah.
share.
And we will be careful here too, because if you're sitting next to somebody else, they may not want to be on camera.
And
So
we
we're
will
gonna
not. We will make sure.
We're going to make sure that only the people who want to be will be on camera.
Yes.
But can you do the bell?
I did the bell one more. Oh, yeah, that was an accidental bell.
I just want to share kind of a joy and a thanks. I think it's from singing the first verse of the hymn today, just to the spirit of Reverend Myers, who was UCC minister up in Youngstown, Ohio, and all the people. It was an older congregation. To let you know, I was usually the youngest male there in attendance. But oh my gosh, these people, there was just so much love and kindness And we would come when our children were young, and that would all be shared with them. And I don't know if I've ever acknowledged that whole community. And I just feel it welling up in me today. Just great gratitude. And also, so many of those folks, I'm sure, have passed the spirit world, but I don't even know who has and who hasn't. But I mean, they're all going through me, the Candyman and Bielmo, and oh my gosh, just Dorothy and Betty and Marge. It's just like, wow, just all these sanghas within sanghas within sanghas that we've had in our lives. And that's not even my childhood or my young adulthood. That's me as a young dad. Whew. Especially Reverend Myers.
I have a couple joys. My first one is I got to do 2 Good Friday services on Friday, and I didn't realize how much Michael has influenced me where I become more priestly in my role as a chaplain. And where liturgy has become more important than teaching, and prayer has become much more of an emphasis. So that's a joy. And then yesterday I got to share a couple songs, one of which I wrote for Sacred Ground at the Magical Druid for their Bardic series. And the one that I wrote for Sacred Ground, this lady comes up after me and goes, yeah, I could see our druids, during an offering, that song being played. And so that was cool. And then a concern is for my family, we're going through a life change and upheaval. It's all good. It's just, there's a lot of anxiety when you're packing and purging, and when we're trying to sell the condo to move to Columbus. But there's always anxiety with all that. So just for that, that's all.
I want to put out prayer for all the people struggling right now with what's going on in the world and the democracy, but also to point to what Thich Nhat Hanh says about rebirth comes out of compost. These old ways have a way of being most difficult when they're flushed out of hiding and they're at their most unjust and most unfair. That actually is a positive step forward. I just want to let everyone know, and a necessary step toward rebirth, because that is when it is dying. It is most virulent, most passionate as it is dying, because it doesn't want to let go. And that's what's happening right now. Old ideas of democracy, old ideas of religion based on authoritarian, top-down, anointment based in offices of the world are falling. And especially young people understand this, and many older people are beginning to understand it too, but much like the moving your stuff out of a house, there is a process of coming to terms, and there is a process of letting go, and there is a process of allowing to die what is no longer necessary, so they can provide the compost for a new rebirth. And that is what I feel right now, and that's my joy right now, which is that all of this was not only necessary, but in some sense glorious. It is the signs of spring, right? When we taste the smell of the rotted leaves on our spring days here, in the big rains, we usually receive those in a very positive way. But guess what? Those are dead leaves. Those are rains and suns and ages and winds turning those leaves into very rich soil from which these new little seedlings out in the backyard, little walnut seedlings and all kinds of things sprout. And to me, that gives me a great amount of joy to understand that that's exactly what's going on. And I think the same can be said of our hearts. I'm going to let the compost of what has gone before, and it's giving itself up to this new way to allow it to grow in my heart. And so I have a great deal of gratitude for that.
Stacy says, joy for Sacred Ground. Sacred Ground services are available to watch on YouTube, so we can spend time with you all. Thank you, Stacy.
Shannon bowing in. This is a joy and a concern. I can't remember if I've shared online yet or not about this, but I've been volunteering with an organization here in Columbus called the Community Refugee and Immigration Service as an English as a second language assistant in a class of senior citizens who are trying to learn English, trying to learn our ways. It's a beautiful group, and it's such joy. We start off the group oftentimes doing like 10 minutes of exercise. We're at a library here in Columbus, and we have a room, and that's just great. That part of it is just great. A bunch of older people just doing that, just getting our bodies moving and having joy together. And at the same time, the struggles that this group of refugees and all the refugees and immigrants in this country right now, including my daughter-in-law's family, who are all here legally. It doesn't really matter right now if you're here legally. And that's really, really painful for me. And yet the joy is definitely there. The folks that come to the ESL class, I don't know their personal stories yet. That's not why we're there. Hopefully I'll learn their stories later as I get to know them better. They're so grateful to be there. I'm grateful to be there. And like organizations all over the country, Chris has had to let a lot of people go. So their staff is doing twice as much work. And I want to make sure people know that when people come here, our federal government has in the past until January 20th, they have a one-time gift of money of $1,350 to get started here, to rent a place, to get their kids vaccinated, to get their kids enrolled in school, to find work, to get a bus pass, to get groceries. And that's all gone. So the people that arrived here just before January 20th, that $1,350 was taken away. So if there's any way that you have the means to donate a little bit of money to your local group that helps refugees and immigrants, they really need it. They really need it. Thank y'all for listening. Shannon bowing out.
Michael says, please pray and act for the Palestinian women and children that are being slaughtered in mass while the world, and especially the U.S., sits by and does little to hold the oppressors accountable. May all these prayers and joys be lifted up today on this Easter Sunday, with so many others who are in joy and in prayer to add to the good in this world. May we know that all that we do, all the good that we send out, reverberates to add to more good. Peace and amen. So our next reading today, our second reading, comes from a book that we haven't used yet, called My Grandfather's Blessing. And this is a book, it's from like 2000 around. Book I've spent the last 3 or 4 months with. Really, really enjoying it. Highly recommended by Rachel Remen. And a couple weeks ago, I read something about the rainbow body in it. And I mentioned it to Michael. So I'm going to read this section. It's broken up into like little stories. They're just like lots and lots and lots of little stories. And the woman is a doctor and deals with a lot of people that are sick, dying of cancer, quite a few of them. So here's a story of one of them. So it's adapted from Rachel Remen's My Grandfather's Blessings, Stories of Strength, Refuge, and Belonging, page, oh, I don't have that. Sorry guys, don't have that here. Pages 356 to 358. Bill had cancer, and he was dying. As he lay in bed, struggling to breathe, I asked him if he could remember a place where he had felt safe. Without hesitation, Bill began to describe his childhood home, the fields and the woods, the sounds of the birds at sunrise, and then he remembered a story. The story is Bill's oldest memory. It happened in rural New Jersey more than 50 years ago when he was 4 or 5 years old and living in a house reached by a dirt road that ran alongside a small river. Often in spring, the river would flood. Once, soon after the flood, Bill was walking along the road and found a rainbow trout, washed up from the river, struggling to live in a drainage ditch beside the road. Small as he was horrified. As he described it, it seemed to him that there was something very wrong about this beautiful fish trapped and struggling in too small, too shallow, too muddy a place. He was just a little boy, and it was a big fish, but somehow he managed to get it up into his arms. He carried it across the road and waded out into the river a little ways and put it back. Deeply moved, I asked him what he remembered most clearly about this. He said he remembered the moment when the fish between his hands realized it was once again part of the river. There are many meanings in every story. On one level, this is a beautiful childhood memory shared by a very sick man. On another, it's a story about a man whose compassion goes back to his very beginnings. But I think there may be deeper readings still. Certain practices run through all the branches of Buddhism. One of these practices is a practice done to celebrate enlightenment and the promise of freedom. At such times in China, Japan, Nepal, and Korea, live fish are bought at the market, taken to bodies of running water, and set free. These fish symbolize the possibility of a return to the source and to the great freedom which is our true refuge and our home. There is also a Buddhist teaching concerning the death of a teacher, one who has accumulated the power to free others and to help them to live well. The death of such one is called taking on the rainbow body. And it is believed that the physical body of such men and women somehow become a rainbow of light. Bill was not a Buddhist. He did not know any of this intellectually. He was an architect, a fly fisherman, a sailor, a friend, a husband, and a father. But there was in him, as there is in all of us, something that went deeper than all these things. An unconscious part that was very old. If you were quiet and listened sometimes without Bill's knowing it, it would speak to you directly. And so, as we were waiting together, anxious and fearful, hoping to find that further treatment was available, I think that this part of him told the three of us this story. Perhaps it spoke to us so that we would understand where Bill truly was in his life. Or even more important, so that we would know that despite appearances, all was well. Over many years of listening to people with cancer, their dreams, their poems, their stories, I have come across many images for the soul, some conscious and many unconscious. I think the rainbow trout is one of the most beautiful.
I'll now share the third and fourth readings. The third reading comes from a book that came out in 1992. You can see my copy, it's a little bit worn. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It was written by the late Sogyo Rinpoche, who's highly problematic as a teacher. Had many problems in his grave errors that he made in his life. But he also, with the help of his teachers, wrote this book. And it's been potent for me. I'm going to be reading from pages 167 through 169 on the rainbow body. And then I'll go directly from there to a reading from what most scholars acknowledge as the oldest of the Gospels, the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, and what's known as the short ending, verses 1 through 8. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after. But I'll read this, and then... And as with all readings, I like what Thich Nhat Hanh says. We're just invited to sit back and not think too much about it. Just try to be like the earth, with reading being like rain washing over us. First, from the book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. The rainbow body. In Tibetan Buddhism, through the advanced practices of Dzogchen, accomplished practitioners can bring their lives to an extraordinary and triumphant end. As they die, they enable their body to be reabsorbed back into the light essence of the elements that created it. And consequently, their material body dissolves into light and disappears completely. This process is known as the rainbow body, or body of light, because the dissolution is often accompanied by spontaneous manifestations of light and rainbows. The ancient tantras of Dzogchen and the writings of the great masters distinguish different categories of this amazing, otherworldly phenomenon. For at one time, if at least not normal, it was reasonably frequent. Usually, A person who knows he or she is about to attain the rainbow body will ask to be left alone and undisturbed in a room or a tent for 7 days. On the 8th day, only the hair and nails, the impurities of the body, are found. This may be very difficult for us now to believe. But the factual history of the Dzogchen lineage is full of examples of individuals who attained the rainbow body. And as Dudjom Rinpoche often used to point out, this is not just ancient history. Of the many examples, I would like to choose one of the most recent, and one with which I have a personal connection. In 1952, there was a famous instance of the rainbow body in the east of Tibet, witnessed by many people. The man who attained it, Sonam Namgyal, was the father of my tutor and the brother of Lama Setsen, whose death I described at the beginning of this book. Sonam Namgyal was a very simple, humble person who made his way as an itinerant stone carver, carving mantras and sacred texts. Some say he'd been a hunter in his youth and had received teaching from a great master. No one really knew he was a practitioner. He was truly what is called a hidden yogin. Sometime before his death, he would be seen to go up into the mountains and just sit, silhouetted against the skyline, gazing up into space. He composed his own songs and chants and sung them instead of the traditional ones. No one had any idea what he was doing. He then fell ill, or seemed to, but became, strangely, increasingly happy. When the illness got worse, his family called in masters and doctors. His son told him he should remember all the teachings he had heard, and he smiled and said, "I've forgotten them all. And anyway, there's nothing to remember. Everything is illusion, but I am confident that all is well." Just before his death at 79, he said, "All I ask is that when I die, don't move my body for a week." When he died, his family wrapped his body and invited lamas and monks to come and practice for him. They placed the body in a small room in the house, and they could not help noticing that although he had been a tall person, they had no trouble getting it in, as if he were becoming smaller. At the same time, an extraordinary display of rainbow-colored light was seen all around the house. When they looked into the room on the 6th day, they saw that the body was getting smaller and smaller. On the 8th day after his death, the morning on which the funeral had been arranged, the undertakers arrived to collect his body. When they undid its coverings, they found nothing inside but his nails and hair. My master, Jamyang Khyentse, asked for these to be brought to him, and he verified that this was a case of the rainbow body. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He's been raised. He's not here. Look, there's the place they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid.
The song that I'm going to be playing is an Easter song. It was written over 100 years ago. It's called In the... It's about when Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene as the gardener. And this is recorded in John's Gospel in chapter 20. And the chorus, if you guys want to sing along, is, and he walks with me, he talks with me, he tells me I'm his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. So this song is an Easter song. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear calling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Sweet at the sound of his voice, it is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'll stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be
Thanks, y'all. I find myself kind of smiling to myself. I don't know why it just popped into my head, but the first sermon / Dharma talk I ever gave to a public audience was an Easter service. Because I mentioned Reverend Myers, this church we used to go to in Youngstown. Well, one of the other hats I wear is a storyteller. And he and I became friends, and we'd come in once a month or so for church when we were up in Youngstown, and he would say, "Hey, Mike, you got a story you could tell us." This is as we're walking in for church that Sunday. Come on, you got a story you can share. And he would just put it into the service. And one year we were up there for Easter weekend, and I get a call from him on I get a call from him one weekend when we were up there. I call on Saturday. Mike, I'm really sick. I was wondering if you could lead the service this Sunday. Reverend Myers, I've never led. You'll be fine. I'm like, Reverend Myers, it's Easter, and so that was my first service. So I've done a few, I guess. Had that opportunity. The reading that Shannon shared with us, I love that line from the Buddha. Wherever there is perception, there is deception. Because we all want to think that we're seeing it all. And I found myself thinking of that story, many of you know it, the story of the blind man and the elephant. That story is connected with Hinduism, with Jainism, and with Buddhism. It's found in sutras 500 years before Jesus. The story of the blind men all touching the elephant. So just to remind you, or if you're not familiar, one of the blind men, he's touching the elephant on the side, and he says, "Well, I think it's a wall," because he's touching the side of the elephant. And another grabs hold of the trunk. It seems to be some kind of snake-like creature. Another gets a hold of the ear. I think it's actually like a big fan. Another grabs the tail. I think it's a rope. Yeah, it's definitely a rope. Another one gets a hold of one of the tusks, and it's some sort of a sword. None of them are wrong, and none of them are right. And I found myself thinking about the Easter story, and there's a whole population of folks who hear that Easter story and go, yes, I have faith in this. I believe Jesus rose from the dead, empty tomb, and oftentimes that's within a very Orthodox Christianity. This is the only begotten Son of God. This is what happened, and that's the story. Other people have this like, that's bull. I don't buy that. I mean, there's no way. If that stone was rolled, if that guy even existed, if the stone was rolled away, somebody got in there and got him out of there. And what we have is good old dualism. And one of my aspirations today was not to give you the real story, but to give us another story. Father Jake Impero says something like this: we must resist the imperialism of the one-dimensional meaning. We all want this one meaning. This is it. No, this is it. A lot of chasms. Better be on the right side, not the wrong side. Be with the folks with the white hats, not the others. And I find myself thinking, I don't know what happened in Tibet, East Tibet in 1952. These are people that this author knew who are telling him that this experience occurred. This is 1 degree of separation from this. So let's play along. What if it's true? What if some hidden yogin in East Tibet, 10 years before I was born, in 1952, someone that almost none of us have ever heard of, Sonam Namgyal, what if, over the course of 6, 7, 8 days, his body transformed and was no longer in a state that we could recognize? That doesn't fit the science, Michael. I didn't say it did. I'm just saying, what if it happened? What if it can happen? That's a lot of ifs. Going with that, though. So what if this does occasionally happen in Tibet, somewhere in China, somewhere in other places in the Far East? And there's, you bring it to the master, like he brought to Jamyang Khyentse, and he looks, he says, oh yeah, that's rainbow body. But what would happen if there was a young man who for some reason became so advanced in his practice, in a place where people had absolutely no knowledge of this rainbow body idea? A person who became so advanced in his practice that they would offer teachings like, when someone slaps you, offer him the other cheek to slap again. A person who becomes so advanced in their practice that when they're being tortured and killed, they're saying, please, Great Spirit, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I can hardly forgive people when they cut me off in traffic. I have trouble when Ollie pisses me off. Whatever else this person was, if we buy into these stories at all, this person is pretty advanced. And what if this young man in his early 30s attained the rainbow body in a community and a culture that had no recognition of that and no way of understanding what the heck was going on? Thich Nhat Hanh doesn't typically go all magical, mystical like I am right now. But Thich Nhat Hanh does like a question that Shannon shared with us. Are you sure? And Ollie and I have been talking lately. And I know people don't like the language of sin, or a lot of people don't. I'm comfortable with it, but whatever you want to call it. Surety seems to be, in my mind, from my limited perspective, from my little place on the elephant, it seems to be one of the most dangerous things that's out there right now. And I'm not talking about from one perspective. I'm not talking about the bad guys. I'm talking about everybody. So an invitation to say, are you sure? hey, maybe it was a rainbow body. Maybe that's what we're celebrating. And there's something, for me at least, lovely about that. We're just learning that the trees are talking to each other. Mm-hmm. If you would have said that to people in the 1950s, they'd say you were wacky. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at the branches. I was like, I feel like I was just channeling. We know those roots are tied to each other. What are they going to tell us in a few years? What's going on up there? My aspiration for myself and my invitation to you is to have as much beginner's mind as we can. Mm-hmm. When the cup's full, we can't add anything to it. But if we're not sure, if we're saying, I don't know, maybe, there's room for us to grow. I don't think I'm meant to, I don't know about y'all. Maybe Elizabeth is. I don't know about you all, but I'm not meant to figure it all out in this round. But I think we are meant to be curious about it and to be compassionate towards people and to keep moving towards, Happy Easter. I invite you to sing with me and I apologize, I didn't get this up online, but this is Jesus Christ is Risen Today, verse 2. And does anybody need the verses here? Hymns of praise then let us sing. Alleluia. Unto Christ our heavenly King. Alleluia. Who endured the cross and grave. Alleluia. Sinners to redeem and save. Alleluia. I'm going to invite us to just have a couple of moments to just sit in silence. And then we'll have the communion ritual. If you are at home and would like to get juice and bread at this time, we're going to have our communion ritual here in just a couple of minutes. I invite you to just notice your breath for a couple of minutes. In Christian tradition, we're given a story that this young man, Jesus, before he died, said, here's a ritual, and I ask you to do this in memory of me. Young man in his early 30s saying, do this in memory of me. And oftentimes when people speak of this Last Supper, they say, on the night he was betrayed. Well, who's he betrayed by? The very people he's sitting with. One will betray him with a kiss. One will deny him 3 times. And every one of them will run away when he's at his most vulnerable point, when he's about to be arrested and later assassinated. And in that context, he takes the bread and breaking the bread, he says, this bread is my body. It's broken for you. Take and eat it. And do this in memory of me. And then he takes the cup. And he says, this wine, this is my blood. Poured out for you. A new covenant. A covenant of forgiveness. Take and drink this in memory of me. And shortly after his death, people began doing this ritual. And today, millions of people across the world doing this ritual. And I invite you to think, he's doing this ritual, saying, do this in memory of me, with a circle of his closest friends who are all about to turn on him. And he says, but later, after you've turned on me, come back and do this in memory of me. I love the nonlinearity of this, right? Once again, if I was sitting with a circle of friends, the people I'm closest to, and I'm about to go through the worst crap of my life, and they're all going to pretend like they don't even know me? And whatever critiques you may have of Christianity, and whatever beliefs you have about whether this all happened or how it all happened, this is quite amazing that we have this human story 2,000 years later and this human ritual. So with that, we're invited, if you wish, and everything is invitational always. So if it's not for you, that is perfectly fine. We're going to take, if you wish, the bread, and you can dip it in the grape juice that we have. And And then we can all hold it and for a moment, and we can just whisper to ourselves if we wish then. And maybe I'll hold it for a moment. And would you pass this around? And we have the gluten-free as well. And so I'm going to walk around with folks while we do this. If you're sitting back there, we won't eat it just yet. We'll wait and we'll pass it around, and then I'll come back and sit here and we'll finish this up with you all back there. And Jesus said, "This is my body, and this is my blood." And this is all about forgiveness. I invite you, if you wish, to sing the third verse. But the pains which he endured, Alleluia, our salvation hath procured. Alleluia. Now above the sky he's King. Alleluia. Where the angels ever sing. Alleluia.
And so for our last few moments, we're going to have a time when people can share if they'd like. So if you're online, you can share in the live chat, and I'll try to read that. And if you're here, you can share either on camera or not share. But we can reflect on anything we want to reflect on from today's service. Well, if you'd like to have a reflection, now will be the time. I'm going to ring the bell, have a moment of silence, and then if anyone would like to share, they may.
I was reflecting this morning about going into this place of light, and I just felt myself entering into this kind of very expansive space, light-filled space. And I did think about this because so many of these stories have these very exceptional figures, saints, etc., being able to literally leave their bodies. In fact, I mean, there is evidence that Jesus himself had a light body, right? That the whole notion of the transfiguration, after being raised from the dead and letting the disciples and apostles touch his wounds, he was seen to be transformed into this, what they called clothes of light. So if that isn't very similar to the other one, I don't know what is. But what was interesting, I think, as I went through this experience this morning, is that we all can, in some sense, reawaken that light within ourselves and experience that rainbow body, that light, perhaps temporarily, right? Perhaps through just a very deep care and love of somebody else. And it doesn't have to be this huge, complicated, highly advanced thing that happens at the end of your life. And, you know, it is accessible. We do and are composed of spirit. It's what allows us to live. It's what allows those shoots to come through the spring soil. So that is light. That is that wonderful rainbowness that each of us has access to. And, you know, in times of dissoluteness or despair, let us take a time to sit and recognize the light that is in us and let ourselves be transformed, transfigured and reborn in that moment. If it only lasts for a few moments, that's fine. But let us be witnesses and let us be beings of that light and take the time to spend time there and to take that out into the world, because I think that really is our spiritual purpose.
Scott bowing in. Things that struck me with readings in the Dharma talk this morning was that everything is perception, and when we and then the sin of certainty. There's a scholar named Peter Enns that wrote a book called The Sin of Certainty. And I grew up in an evangelical tradition where certainty is a value.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this book is inerrant, infallible, and you don't question it. So, but one of the things that I'm drawn to is Gnosticism. I love the parts of Christianity that fell away because the winners won. And yet there is a verse that I'm convicted by in Deuteronomy that says the secret things belong to God. And the things that he revealed to us belongs to us. And there is this desire. I have this desire to know things that don't belong to me. And Jane and I are both drawn to these secret things. And the word in Latin for secret or hidden is occult. So when I was going through my books and my tarot cards yesterday, I threw out a bunch. And, you know, anything dealing with the secret magic, I was convicted by. Now, it may not be true to some people, but it's true to me to let the secret things stay with God. And so anything dealing with the Order of the Golden Dawn, I threw away. Anything dealing with Aleister Crowley, I threw away. Now, there's some tarot cards I kept. There's some books I kept, especially ones that synthesize Catholic tradition with tarot.
Mhm.
But there's this temptation to know the secret things. So that's the first thing. The second thing is themes. There's certain themes that are perennial that go over all religious traditions, not just Christianity. One of the themes is death and rebirth. And we celebrate as Christians Easter, with Good Friday being death and Easter being what? Rebirth. I was at the Magical Druid yesterday, and one of the people were talking about the Green Man. And you would see the Green Man in a lot of churches in Ireland.
Mhm.
And this is a symbol of rebirth and resurrection of the Celtic and Germanic traditions. And every culture has stories like the rainbow body of rebirth and resurrection. And these themes are transcendent. Whether Jesus rose from the dead, that's a matter of faith. Some people believe it, some people don't. So that occurred to me. Now, with purging, I have conservative evangelical books that I'm going to have to get rid of because that's not where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
So I'm going to find a church in my area that can take those. But purging is good, even though it brings anxiety for me because I have to let go of things. So I want to share that with.
Stacy comments online. He is risen indeed, with emojis, prayers, peace. I can't see because I don't have my glasses, but I don't know if I can tell emojis. I'm not sure. Thank you for sharing, Stacy.
Shannon bowing in. First, I want to thank everybody for being here. Really appreciate this group very much. The part of Michael's talk that I especially was thinking about, and some of you all know that I've shared Robin Wall Kimmerer before in this group, when he said that if somebody had said to a lot of us in the 50s about trees talking, we would have thought they were high or insane or any variety of things. The problem is we were so busy on exterminating the indigenous people here. That's why we would have been mocking it. Had we celebrated the people living here in the long, long thousands of years, that they had rich cultures here, we would have always known that. And so it's a real good reminder to me of things can be real and they are not true. I just read that statement from Tara Brock, who is a Dharma teacher and many other things. And at first I didn't get it. I'm not a deep philosophical person, but she did a great job of explaining, like we've been talking about today. Real is what you've been conditioned to believe. It can be real. It's your experience. It's real for you. And that doesn't mean it's true. And what I've really loved and continue to love is the more I learn of indigenous ways all over the world, they all knew that trees talk to each other. Our ancient, meaning my white ancient relative somewhere, they already knew that trees talk to each other because they had to live in the real world in order to survive. They weren't much different than animals, plants, anything else, because they just were. They had not separated themselves from everything else like we have. So that's what I'm excited about in these times. More and more people are waking up to that. Like I woke up to it. And it's been a very wonderful process. So thank y'all for listening. Shannon bowing out.
Thanks y'all so much. I just, I'm always just overjoyed at all the different perspectives and all the different sharing, and my mind is full too, with yeah, different things from today. And I gotta tell Scott, the song you did, that just so reminded me of my grandpa. So my grandpa's church, I was like, that goes right back to my childhood, as does the other song that we're singing here. But thank you guys so much. I'm going to end with a couple of announcements, and then Michael will do our ending prayer and our last verse to our song, I think. So the next time we're going to meet, Michael will do his Bible study, Fresh Green Blessings, on Wednesday. So this Wednesday, April 23rd at 4 o'clock. It is on YouTube, and it's Psalm 131 and Mark chapter 9. And next Sunday, we're going to be Wild Church, in person only. So if you're in Columbus or near us, you could meet us here. And if you want to find out more information about us, go to theholynow.org. And on there, you can contact us, and we can get you on our email list so you can find out where we're at, so you can come see us and when we're going to be doing different activities. The next Sunday we'll be online is, I think it's 2 weeks from today. We'll be online again for Sunday morning service. But thanks y'all so much for joining us today, and Michael will lead us out.
Happy Easter, y'all. And just invite us. I'm going to do the bell, invite us to take a couple of breaths, and then I'll have a closing prayer and the closing verse for the song. Entitled is The Buddha, the Christ, the Great Sacred. Tai said, I know where they all live. Even have the zip code. Right here. And then right here. And then right here. I shared a lot of thoughts and ideas. We shared a lot of different perspectives. Tai gives us that nice hot knife through butter. Right here. Whatever your views, whatever your perspectives, this moment, it's absolutely amazing. I happen to be sitting in a room with 5 other incredible human beings. I happen to know of these two awesome elders. There's some other awesome folks from other species, canine and feline, among us. And then there's you folks, some of whom we know, some of whom I've never met. Right here. With the trees and the birds and our stories and our ancestors. Right here. I want you to breathe in and out. In and out. Deep and slow. Calm and ease. Dwelling in this present moment. This wonderful moment. Present. Wonderful. Present. Present. Back in the 80s, I was a practicing Catholic. In the 90s, I started to develop interest in Buddhism. And friends gave me this book, Prayers for a Planetary Pilgrim, by the Roman Catholic priest Edward Hayes. And he provided a beautiful melding of spiritual traditions. He has in here prayers from Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, Native American traditions. And here's an Easter prayer that I've adapted from him, from Prayers for a Planetary Pilgrim, page, oops, there's my glasses, page 143. An Easter prayer. May Brother Einstein's Easter law delight our hearts on this Easter Sunday. For that quantum equation maintains that matter, taken to the speed of light squared, is turned into pure energy again. Lord, in your infinite design, nothing dies. It only changes form until it finally and forever changes into your form, into the energy of the light of love divine. Take hope, O hearts. May we be firm in our feeble faiths. For the matter of the flesh and bones that we call ourselves will also become an Einstein Easter event. Peace and amen. Sing we to our God above. Alleluia. Praise eternal as his love. Alleluia. Praise him, all you heavenly hosts. Alleluia. the Son, and Holy Ghost. Alleluia. It's a pleasure being with you all. Happy Easter to everyone, and we hope to see you all again soon. Blessings, and may all that we do here reverberate out, add to the peace, the needed understanding, the needed compassion for ourselves, our relationships, our communities, our nations, our Mother Earth, and the greater cosmos. Peace and amen.
Amen.